Estou bem, a equipe está bem. É claro que estamos em início de competição. Sempre tem uma coisa ou outra para ajustar. E agora acaba começando a ter 2 jogos por semana e acaba não tendo muito tempo de treinamento físico, isso. A equipe está preparada, tivemos uma boa preparação na pré-temporada. Estamos com a cabeça bem. As férias fazem muito bem para os jogadores, para descansar a mente, para desligar um pouco do futebol, para desestressar um pouco, para curtir, para aproveitar. Então eu acho que todos os nossos jogadores conseguiram fazer isso e conseguiram voltar bem para a pré-temporada e decorrência disso estamos tendo um bom início de temporada. Na Premier League não tem jogos fáceis. Você tem que estar 100% a cada jogo, se dedicar 100%, porque se você dedica 99%, você corre o risco de não vencer a partida. Então, eu já estou aqui já há 5 anos, já sei como é que é. Cada jogo tem sua dificuldade.
My word, world class, and it had to be world class against a world class goalkeeper.
E amanhã não é diferente, é uma equipe recém-promovida à Premier League, que tem um bom começo também. Assisti a última partida deles, causaram muitas dificuldades ao time adversário. Tem jogadores muito bons. Então nosso time tem que estar preparado, estamos preparados, fizemos uma boa preparação e espero que amanhã a gente possa fazer uma grande partida.
Foden towards the back post. It's Haaland who scores. It's Erling Haaland with his second goal. Again, Gundogan to Haaland. Haaland receives strongly, stabs the ball in. It's
que protege bem a bola, que finaliza bem, que tem faro de gol, que chega na cara do gol, faz gol. Então isso é muito importante para a nossa equipe. É um jogador que consegue ter linha de área.
wonderful ball through from him. It's Bernardo Silva who scores. And it's a sumptuous pass from Kevin De Bruyne.
O Kevin se falar dele porque ele tem uma visão de águia, ele consegue achar passes extraordinários. É um jogador que tem uma consistência muito boa. É um jogador que corre muito pela equipe também, ajuda muito. Isso é notado por mim, pelos meus companheiros. Então, não tenho muito o que falar dele. Ele é um jogador fenomenal. É uma baita contratação do City, um dos melhores jogadores que eu já joguei na minha carreira. Então, espero que ele possa dar continuidade e manter esse nível por mais alguns anos pela frente aí.
A very good evening, and as Pep Guardiola arrives at the Etihad Stadium, you arrive at Matchday Live with me, Cal Spellman. So great to be back with you. I do hope you have all recovered from that enthralling Palace game just a few days ago. And ladies and gentlemen, League. Now, if we do win today, this will be the 21st time in a row City have won on a Wednesday, which will equal a record set by Liverpool, which was between 2018 and 2020. So a Neco record is for the break-in. Now, we have found ourselves 2 goals behind in 4 of our last 6 Premier League games. Let's hope that man can stop that happening tonight. We are here in the Matchday Live studio. Welcome along, and joining me today, we have got an awesome duo, two of my absolute favourites in the form of club legends, Mr. Paul Dickov and Shaun Wright-Phillips. Paul, Shaun, welcome along. How are we doing this evening, Paul?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to the game. Hopefully more goals. Forest, dodgy start to the season, but I think we've been fantastic. Even the Newcastle game where we drew, coming from 2 goals behind again at the weekend. That's what champions do. We never know we're beaten. We never change our game. And some of the football we've been playing has been absolutely amazing. So let's hope we'll get more of that tonight. Well, let's get straight into the team news, because Matchday Live is where we bring you the starting 11 first. And here is our team as chosen by Pep Guardiola. It looks like this. In goal, of course, is our number 31, Ederson, a back four. No changes there from the game against Palace. Kyle Walker at right back. Ruben Diaz partners John Stones at centre half. And Joao Cancelo at left back. In the middle, it looks like we're going to have Rodri holding alongside Bernardo Silva after that man of the match performance against Palace. And of course, Ilkay Gundogan, our club captain, joins them too. And a name that we've all been waiting to see in the starting 11. He's been knocking on the door and the door has been opened. Julian Alvarez starts alongside Phil Foden, and down the middle, our hat-trick hero, Erling Haaland. As we look to our bench, of course, we've got our new signing Ortega there. Kevin De Bruyne drops to the bench from the Palace game. Of course, our new left-back, Gomez. Riyad Mahrez, Cole Palmer. Claudio Gomez is on the bench. Our right-back, Rico Lewis. Ben Knight, and it's completed, of course, by our left-back, Wilson Esbrand. Shaun, I'm going to for that. 11 looking like for Kevin De Bruyne, Julian Alvarez. How excited are you about him starting tonight, Shaun?
I'm very excited for him and for myself, to be honest with you. But it'll be They're not going to sit back and park the bus per se. They're going to try.
I mean, he's not played loads of games, Paul, but given the brief time that we've seen him on the pitch, he kind of already seems to have excited City fans so much. How do you think he's created such a positive effect in so little time, with so little kind of minutes on the pitch at the moment?
I think it started in the Community Shield. When he came on, he was so lively when he came on. I know he obviously got his goal as well, but he was just buzzing around everywhere. And I'm sure like every City fan, when it was announced we signed him and he was going back to River Plate, I was on the old YouTube watching his goals and keeping tabs on him all the way through, and he just looks like an all-round player, whether it's through the middle or it's wide. He scores left foot, right foot, inside the box, outside the box, scores headers for a small guy, and he's just got a bit of everything. And City fans love players that are going to buzz around, that are going to work hard, and and the biggest thing I can say from him so far for such a young kid to come over from Argentina. He's not come over from Argentina, went into Europe and then came here. He's adapted so quickly, so well. And the fact that Pep's put him in the team tonight shows you how highly he thinks of him.
I mean, obviously the
It was great to see. He was there with all his family. There was his mum and dad, there was aunties and uncles. They were all suited and booted, all dressed up, and they were so proud of him. And you could tell that he was proud of signing for City, but proud for his family to be there at the same time as well. And he just seems the sort of character that just wants to get better and better and better all the time, and he will. Playing with these players week in, week out, training with Pep every single day, his game will go to a different level. But I do agree with you. I think all the hype surrounding Haaland, and rightly so, could make it slightly easier for him to settle in.
There has been that talk of, well, though, obviously, as there always is, outside the club, of how much game time is he going to play. But you were saying, Shaun, actually, once we get into the rhythm of the season, and for City, that usually involves 3 games, twice a week, 2 games twice a week, 2 games once a week. You're saying it's definitely going to be a rotation because Haaland will have to drop certain games, and that's where he'll come in.
Yeah, well, I think Pep showed it today with to kind of give him a break, but also at the same time he knows the players that are stepping in can do a good job. They're not going to be left in a position where City look vulnerable, and that's the most great thing about City. They're not reliant on one player. They can still work and play the exact same way whoever's in that starting lineup.
And
But what I like about this tonight, because people are thinking that if Haaland doesn't play, it's going to be Alvarez. It's going to be one or the other. I think it's great that he's playing both of them.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and Alvarez, he can play left, he can play right, and he can even play as a number 10 and behind him or up top with him.
Yeah.
Think he's got everything. You know, 9 times out of 10 when we press well, he starts it off. If he's in the middle, you know, because he's usually the furthest one up, whether it be by number 9 or last season with a false number 9. But he just pops up every. The second half on Saturday, he took that game by the scruff of the neck.
Agreed.
And he led by example, and everybody else followed. You know, Haaland, goal scorers always get the credit, you know, when they score goals, and rightly so. Yeah. But for me, he was the difference, you know. First half, he was buzzing around, it wasn't quite happening, but the second half, he dragged that team into the performance that they had.
Pep mentioned as well, he's one of the few players that when maybe the odds are against us, and, you know, we are
Ourselves, being a small lad.
Wait. Let's admit you're the small lad
it
over
can be
here.
difficult, you know, so maybe that's something to do with it. You know, you think. I mean, I used to have it all the time when I pitched small man syndrome. Yeah. You think you're 6'2", 6'3", but he genuinely does. And
yeah.
The influence he had in the team on Saturday was there for everybody to see.
Let's then move to the back half, of course, of this starting 11. It's unchanged from the game against Palace. Edison, Walker, Diaz, Stones, Cancelo. Little bit light there, of course, as we know, unfortunately, Ake and Laporte still not fit enough to make it to the bench. Now, there was a stat I mentioned at the start of the show that we have found ourselves behind by 2 goals in 4 of our last the 6 Premier League games we played, which is more than the 84 before that. Slight.
He nullified that in the second half where they basically didn't let Saint Maximin turn. And once you do that, then it kind of kept him quiet and City controlled the game. I think against Crystal Palace, they were just unlucky. The second one was a great header, but the first one, no one can do anything about. It's just kind of just ricocheted and it's popped in the bottom corner. But other than that, they dominated the game for pretty much 90 minutes. And Palace played how we all expected, sit back and on a counter-attack. So I personally don't think there's much to worry about. I wouldn't be worried anyway.
I mean, you want to know one player that probably...
Surprised me if they've sat and spoke about it. But I'm with Shaun, I'm not that worried about it, Kel, because in the season, you know, and sometimes it takes some players a little bit longer to get up to speed with things. You know, and you look at our start to other seasons, you know, but we've not lost yet. We've lost a couple of games at the start of the season, and it's took us a little while to get into the swing of things. I think the biggest positive is how good we are looking attacking-wise at this stage of the season already, and that's only going to get better. And it's not just the defence, you know. it's not just the two centre-halves, it's not just the full-back, the goalkeeper. The reason we are so good is because we defend as a team and we attack as a team, and I just think it's a couple of little teething problems in that.
And I guess as well, it's important to remember, as Pep reminded us, last year against Palace, when we conceded a goal or even two, we weren't able to come back. The difference seems to be in this team, and whether it is Haaland or maybe they've just matured again, we are coming back when the odds are against us, which is huge.
Yeah, and I think having Haaland, Alvarez, that, I won't say focal point, but in a way that fox in the box that just knows how to finish when the ball's there. I think if you go back to, say, Crystal Palace last year, I think we had around about the same chances that year as we did this year. But the difference was we had a Haaland in the box to take those chances. So, like Paul said, I just think we're playing so well, especially going forward, and there's been some beautiful passages of play in all the games as the season goes on.
So exciting. Now, one man, he's not on the starting 11, he is on the bench, but we've got him up because 7 years ago yesterday, we signed this man. A flop, pundits called it, an absolute waste of 60 million, others called it. I think he's proved them all wrong, Paul, and I mean, just how privileged have we been to enjoy 7 years of this man?
Oh, just super player. And for me, he's the best in the world in that position. Simple. I don't think Phil Thompson.
I saw that.
Yeah. I don't think he particularly likes this time of year. That quote keeps coming back every single time. And I seen Kevin actually tweeted out a couple of
I saw that.
So which I quite like. But look, he's got everything. I'm talking about Bernardo Silva, but you know, his work rate is sensational. He's turned into a leader over the last 3 or 4 years of the team as well. Obviously being vice captain, but his ability on the ball is just, I can't see anybody in the world that can come anywhere near him at the minute.
And I guess as well for any young players watching or young footballers, it's not the ability on the ball. He leads and shows exactly what every other player should be doing on the pitch, which if Kev wasn't to do it, you'd probably go, you don't have to, but he does, Shaun, doesn't he?
And that's the thing that a lot of people, I would say, especially at the beginning when he's playing, didn't really notice, is how hard he works and how he presses and how the whole team follows. Speed yet. Sometimes you know what you want to do, but you're so tired from what you've already done that it normally doesn't happen. But with Kevin, it's just, no matter how tired he is or what he's doing, he can see and make things happen.
Yeah, well,
he still wants to get better. That's the thing. I mean, it made me chuckle there. It might have just been the way the camera angle got him there, but he looked raging that he's not starting tonight. You know, he wants to play in every single game. He's not happy if he gets taken off. He wants to start and he wants to be that. The best players in the world want to play every single game and show everybody else that they're the best, and he is. He
absolutely is, and what a privilege it has been for those 7 years. Fingers crossed we've got a few more years yet with Super Kevin De Bruyne. He is on the bench, but Julian Alvarez starts. Thank you for joining us on Matchday Live. Now, if you want to get involved with the show, you know how much we love that. Here's the all-important WhatsApp number. Get your questions in, and then towards the back end of this show, and then at half-time and full-time, I can maybe put a few burning questions or maybe some of your insights to our guests in the studio, which today is Paul Dickov and Shaun Wright-Phillips. So we've looked at Manchester City's team news. Our opponents today at the Etihad are Nottingham Forest, newly promoted, of course, a club steeped in history, and they are back at the top of the game. Let's take a look at their starting 11. It looks loaded. Lots of new signings, as we know, in Nottingham Forest. I think they might be up around 16, 17 at the moment. Looking to the bench, of course, we've got Hennessy, Biancone, Cook, Toffolo, Colback, Lingard, Surridge, Dennis and Awoniyi. Paul, you mentioned there at the start of the show, slightly tricky start to the season for them, but I guess that's always going to be the case with a new team finding their feet, plus with so many new faces as well.
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, I think it's great to see them back in the Premier League. You know, they don't just change the whole team. It looks as if they've changed the whole squad, and it's going to take time for them to come back in. They've signed some good players. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, is a fantastic player. I was really surprised that he didn't get more match time at Wolves. But to have that turnover of players within a squad, it's difficult to get going at the start of the season, especially the 5th game you're going to come here. But what I will say is Steve Cooper, I know him well, and he will not change how he plays. You know, he done it through England under 17s when they won the World Cup, with Phil Foden in the team. And when he went to Swansea, he done the same thing. Great job, transformed how they played, gave them a real identity. He done it with Nottingham Forest. You know, the position there, I think they were bottom of the league when they took over.
Yeah, they were.
And then to get them up into promotion shows you what a good coach he is. So, although the players have turned around, and I think it's 16, 17 players that they've signed.
I think he's at 19 now,
19,
actually. Oh,
yeah. Steve won't change how he plays. You know, I'll be so surprised. Me and Shaun were speaking to Dexter Blackstock, one of the ex-Forest players last night and today.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he won't come here, or he would like to think he wouldn't come here and sit back, because the only way he knows is to play expansive attacking football. But at the same time, that can be so dangerous coming here.
Is that obviously comes down to the coach's mentality, but it seems to be, you know, that kind of is in certain coaches and the ones that everyone really speaks highly of, you know, even like an Arteta now or Pep, or with Steve Cooper, that they stay to the way they play, even though probably people say otherwise. Is that what separates them, because they have that much belief and probably everyone outside is go and change the way you play?
I think that's the key thing. I think the fact that he isn't changing the way he plays is also showing the players that he believes in them and he backs their ability to come and match it with whoever it may be. I think there will be an air of caution on it, because he knows if you come all guns blazing at the Etihad, normally you end up on the back of a 4-0 thumping or a lot more. So I think there will be that era of caution, but at the same time, I think with his setup that you've seen the players that he's got up there, Brennan Johnson, attackers, Gibbs, the same thing. They're great footballers, so they're going to want the ball and they're going to try stuff. So it'll be an exciting game.
I enjoyed watching them against Tottenham on Saturday. You know, I thought
they took it to them.
They played, but they left themselves so open at the same time.
Just a quick word on that, Paul. I mean, it's 6 new signings out of the 19 in Forest starting 11. What is their style of play? So what can we expect them to try do here at the Etihad, do you think?
The centre-halves will split every time the goalkeeper gets the ball. The full-backs will push on. One of the 3 midfielders, not just the sitting one, will want to come and get the ball, and they'll look to play between the lines to get the front 3 in, because he likes having pace up front. He's not just because he's got pace up front, he'll just won't look to knock it long in behind. He'll look to play through the lines, keep possession, not stupid possession. It could be 3-4 passes or even 2 passes, and then he'll look to get the strikers in down the side.
Interesting, very exciting. Okay, I mean, it means for an open, expansive game tonight at the Etihad Stadium, 7:30 kickoff. So we've looked at City's team news and we looked at Nottingham Forest team news. One thing we haven't done is heard from a Nottingham Forest fan. And earlier on in the week, of course, just down the road at the cricket ground, certain England were taking on South Africa, and we managed to catch up with massive Nottingham Forest fan Stuart Broad. Here he is giving us thoughts and feelings around Nottingham Forest and the season ahead.
Yeah, really, very excited. You know, it's one of those huge things when you get promoted from the Championship. You look at the fixture list of the mega clubs, the best teams in the world that you can host at the City ground, and also go and watch away from home. And you know, City are one of those teams that you're immediately drawn to and attracted to, particularly with the new signing of Haaland. I think everyone, just Premier League fans throughout the summer, were buzzing to see him come and be able to watch him every week. You know, it's one of those games that, going to the Etihad, you're going to enjoy the experience. You're not necessarily expecting 3 points or even a point. You just want to see a great game of football, but hold hope that your team can do something special. My first real memory for us, when we lost 8-1 to Man United, Solskjaer scored a hat-trick in injury time, I think. But we'll get past that one pretty quickly. But it was really when sort of David Johnson and Michael Dawson were coming through the teams, when I started to go more regularly. Late 90s, early 2000s is where my sort of real connection with the club and watching more and more grew. I mean, obviously, like, as a kid, 4, 5, 6 years old, I had the shirts and all that sort of thing. But it was that club. Like, Paul Hart was manager, and just after our Premier League years, that I started watching more and more, and then obviously through our period of being stuck in the Championship, I've been watching as much as I can when I'm home in the winters over the last sort of 10, 12, 15 years. But it's very special to, you know, you always have that fear when you're in the Championship as a fan of are we ever going to get back in the Premier League? Like, we're seeing a lot of different clubs, Huddersfield, Norwich, go up, and you're hoping, why can't we? Why haven't we? As an England team, and I called our coach, Brendan McCullum, who's from New Zealand. I said, look, coach, I know we're meeting in the evening, but do you mind if I go to Wembley to watch Nottingham Forest? And he went, who are Nottingham Forest? I was like, this is going to be a tough conversation. So I explained, you know, we've not been in the Premier League for 23 years, we've got this one game, it's a shootout to try and get there. And he goes, yeah, of course, go, and then just come back and check in the evening. So I was thrilled to be able to go to Wembley with my mates. Okay, we're now promoted, but we want to be a team that's here to stay. Excites you even more as a fan.
Absolutely brilliant cricketer there, Stuart Broad, who is also a Nottingham Forest fan, giving us his thoughts and feelings about the club that he loves. We're going to hear a little bit more from him in just a little bit. That's our starting 11 to take on Nottingham Forest at the Etihad Stadium. Our keepers have just come out to start into Before we look a little bit more at some history around Nottingham Forest, we're going to begin, of course, through Stat. You know it works. We have 3 clues for you throughout the show. With us in the studio, you have to try and work out who is it that we are describing here. So, gents, let me bring you clue number 1 for this week's Who's Stat. It looks like this. This player played 181 times in the Premier League for 3 different teams, including today's opponents. That's okay. We're broadening the clues out here a little bit. Okay, so we're going back a bit. So he's played for today's opponents and then 2 other teams, 181 times in the Premier League. It's all right. Have you got an idea there?
Yeah, I think I got an idea.
Oh, hello, Shaun.
I'm telling you, man. I can't do it. I'll wait until we go off air and then I'll tell you who.
Okay, we'll wait for our next VT and I'll see what Shaun is.
You let me know what you
now, with Stuart Broad in a little bit, we're going to play a game called Pep or Clough. Now, Clough, of course, is a name that is, of course, synonymous to today's opponents, Nottingham Forest. But not just that, in football, a man who had incredible achievements with Nottingham Forest, with Derby, and people say, of course, is one of the greatest managers of the English game. Now, a certain heir to his throne would be his son Nigel, who, Paul, I believe you also know very well. You played along with his son Nigel.
I did,
didn't you?
yeah. Played with him here and then a management Derby later on in the career as well.
Ah,
Fantastic
okay.
guy.
Brilliant. Well, listen, hold that thought, because we're now going to hear from Mansfield manager, of course, Brian Clough's son, Nigel Clough, and we caught up with him to hear how he's been getting on, and he might even have a word to say about yours truly, Mr. Paul Dickov.
What about Nottingham Forest then, a club close to your heart? City played Forest tonight. Just what kind of a job has Steve Cooper done? Because obviously he took over, they were in a very different position to they are today, and he seems to have an immediate impact.
They'd like to stay in the Premier League for some time to come and build. You know, when you look at the other promoted sides, I think Brentford last year, spent 40 odd million or something, Fulham 50 odd this year, and it's, you know, they're into the sort of 150. I think they're having a serious go about staying in the league and then building from there.
You mentioned there the 19 players, 19 and counting. It could end up being more. Obviously, the window's still open. We spoke to Stuart Broad last week, who's obviously a big Forest fan, and he kind of explained to us that it's almost a necessity to bring that many players in because they had so many loan players and players who left. As a manager, do you look at that situation and think that would be really difficult to get 19 players to mould and gel very quickly? Because obviously in the Premier League you don't get much time to do that.
It can be, but I think you're better having the opportunity to do that and not having the players at all. So they've got the squad now nearly in place. They will have now 24, 25 players. We've seen a couple of the fringe players. So I think Joe Lolly's gone out to Australia, and there'll be the loans went back, so there'll be the natural sort of lads that, you know, drift away from the Premier League. But I think you're looking at those sorts of numbers just to compete. And also you're not quite sure if people are going to work out. So if one doesn't work out and you've got another one to come in and have a go, some people might not settle. But I think they've given themselves a real opportunity by signing these players, and a lot of quality players as well. And not all sort of from the highest levels. I think they took the 2 lads from Huddersfield. I think taking a couple of players like that gives you a good variety of the ability of players. And then you've also got a few players that, if the worst comes to worst and you do go down, you've got that squad intact to come straight back up.
What would be a good season for Forest, and what do you think City can expect in this game?
I think City will find it tough, depending on if they play to their capabilities, then they're on, you know, a different level than most of the Premier League. So it'll be, I think, how the start of the game, can Forest sort of keep that clean sheet intact for a while, and I think then the longer it goes. I think, judging by City's recent results, the last thing you want to do is go ahead. If you're Forest, you don't want to go in front, because that's when they seem to really crank it up. And, you know, 2-0 down, I think, on Saturday, and to come back and win 4-2 in the Premier League is a hell of an ask. It doesn't keep going like that, but it's a hell of an achievement when you can come back into a game. So Forest have got to be tight, try not to concede. And I think with the pace that they have of people like Brennan Johnson on the break, you've always got an opportunity.
Paul Dickov, who's a bit of a City legend. What is your memories of working with Paul?
Oh, what a fiery, feisty, brilliant little striker he was. If Paul, you're watching, I hope you've calmed down a little bit since those days. Brilliant player to have in your team. And we actually took him on loan when we were at Derby as a striker as well, because we knew all about his qualities then. But lovely, brilliant lad to have in your team, honestly. There's not many around like him anymore, who I think, despite him not being 6'5", scared the living daylights out of defenders at times.
And because he worked so hard, and that's what we remember him as. Do you think that raises the game of those around him, you know, his teammates?
It's infectious, without doubt. You see somebody like Paul working up there, and then everybody else follows suit, and he has that sort of impact on the team.
So wonderful, beautiful to hear, Paul. How much did you pay him?
A little tear in my eye there. That's the nicest thing he's ever said. I've played with him for 2 seasons. He managed me, and that's the nicest thing he's ever said. So that was...
Well, listen, everything he said there as well, I mean, we know so true, of course, those qualities. Fiery, feisty, and lifted everyone around you. Before we get into him as a person, I just wondered, and if you've both had this, how is it to have someone who you've played with? Because being a teammate, you know, is very different to have someone who is your manager.
Hotel with him, and he was just such a calming influence on me, maybe not on the pitch but off the pitch as well, and helped me settle in really. Never mind what he'd done at Burton before that, but what he'd done at Derby, the wage bill was astronomical. The club was going out of business, and the way he cut that wage bill, I think it was like down nearly 75–80%. Wow. Over the time that was there. Wow. He still kept the team competitive. You know, he had his little quirky ways. People said it was little things he would do like his dad, but he was his own man. And then you look at the job he'd done at Burton, taking him from non-league all the way up to the Championship, and he's doing it at Mansfield now. But fantastic. Well, I'm going to say he's a fantastic guy now.
Yeah.
But nah, massive respect for him, because not just a good guy but a fantastic manager, and doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Could you see, I mean, obviously, you talk, the success stories he's had, as you said there, are quite phenomenal. He's never kind of really had that, maybe out of a choice to go for a Premier League team, but I mean, I'm guessing when you see what he's done with those teams, very much has the capability. Do you think there could be Premier League sides? I mean, we even look at a Bournemouth, say, at the moment, you know, that sadly, you know, lost Scott Parker a little bit. I feel like he'd be a perfect fit for one of them teams.
I've no doubt he could. I think maybe because all the jobs, the fantastic jobs that he's done, have been like a Mansfield or a Burton. That's no disrespect to him. And he's brought them up that some bigger clubs, they get a bit snobby. Now, It doesn't really fit the profile, but I've no doubt he could go into any club and turn it around because his man management style is that good. He doesn't treat everybody the same. He knows how to put an arm around. He's got a canny sense of a player struggling, of getting them out of that, whether it's personally, whether it's on the pitch, whether it's in training or mentally or whatever. He reads these situations so well. I've seen him do it at Derby.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Well, he's obviously managing Mansfield at the moment, and they actually as well took on our EDS team in the EFL Trophy yesterday. Now, sadly, we lost. Mansfield were 3-2 winners in that game. Massive congratulations to that team, but a great effort from our boys. And of course, that's only in the group stage, because alongside Mansfield, we have Derby and Grimsby, so there's still a chance for us to progress if we can pick up some points. So we'll be keenly following that in just a little bit. Now, we're going to take a little pause, of course, before we get back into maybe a second clue of who's stat, but I want to bring you a little together trailer. As you know, we've been bringing out episodes week after week after week. We are now at episode 6, and if you've not had a chance to tuck into this series, well, you've done well to wait, because now you can binge them, and it's more or less up there with All or Nothing. It's absolutely brilliant. It's looking at our season last year, and I can bring you a little trailer for the new episode dropping this week.
I know you're dreaming, but now is the moment. It's now what you have to do. It's now what you have to do.
Manchester City versus Liverpool in the season-defining game.
Would you like to extend your stay as a player here another year, maybe?
I don't think so.
Oh, I didn't know it. At this part of the season, every game is like a final.
So to the next chapter of this pulsating, compelling title race.
Again! 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 I don't want to.
Host of Brilliant City content on there. It's only £1.99 a month, so it is well worth signing up to subscribing, because there's no on there, and I have to say that is the creme de la creme, so massive congratulations to all the City Studios team. Right, who's stats? We've already had one clue. We try and work out who this player is from our clues. Now, the guess you had from clue number 1, Shaun, we're thinking now is not the one, is it? No, okay. So clue number 1 was this player has played 181 times in the Premier League for 3 different teams, including today's opponents, Nottingham Forest. Clue number 2 is this. This player had a spell where he started 35 out of 36 Premier League games under Joe Royle, and he played 90 minutes in 31 of them. So he played under Joe Royle.
I'm going back. I'm taking it back.
You're taking it back? You do think it is the one you've said?
No, still no?
Paul disagrees.
He wasn't here with Joe.
All right.
Ooh. Starting 11 is about to come up on the screen if you've just tuned in. Welcome to Match Day Live. Kel Spellman with Shaun, Wright-Phillips and Paul Dickov. The team's now out warming up on the pitch, of course. Just under half an hour to go until kick-off. And Alistair, Mann and Shaun Goater are going to be commentary on the City app. Now, before we speak about that man there, we've just seen on the screen Erling Haaland, who was passing the ball between Phil Foden before, so hopefully we'll see more of that in a little bit. A couple of the WhatsApp questions that have come in. And I'm going to begin with this one because I think, for me, these are 3 of the strongest kits we've had so far. But this WhatsApp question was, what is your favourite City kit this season? Out of the 3, of course, we've got the green and black hoops. We've, of course, got the beautiful blue one that I think they'll be wearing tonight. And, of course, this red and black one. Do you have a favourite, Shaun?
Yeah, my favourite is actually the red and black one.
Yeah.
I think it brings me back to my spell at City with the red and black stripes that went straight down. So I think, for me, I really like the red and black.
Remember that with the first advice. What about you?
I'm going to be boring and actually agree with Shaun for once.
Hey!
I love that kit.
It's cool, isn't it? It's so
takes
cool.
us that season where we got promoted.
So nice.
Black on red and black, and then you go back to, obviously, Malcolm Allison compared to AC Milan.
That's
and
it, innit?
and Bell and all that in the FA Cup. So
it does seem to be the fan favourite, I think, the red and black.
The club are brilliant at that, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, bringing back kits, obviously different style and everything else, but It looks even better on you, Kel.
Thanks, Bar.
I wasn't going to say that.
Do you know what, as well, I need to pull out a picture of that. Me and our kid have got that red and black kit on you're talking about there together and both like that high. Another question, of course, from our WhatsApp. Just a quick one on today's front three. What are your thoughts on today's front three? We've not seen these front three before. This almost looks like the next chapter in Manchester City's kind of tenure. We've got Julian Alvarez, Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, I think all of them below the age of 23. Give us your thoughts, gents.
That stat itself, sensational.
Yeah,
exactly. Just all top players. Be interesting who play. Obviously, Erling's going to play through the middle. It's whether Phil plays on the right, cutting in his left, and Alvarez on the other side, or whether they both play in their natural position. Well, Phil on the left and him on the right, or you could see Alvarez. You never know with Pep. You could see him playing off Haaland at some point.
Yeah.
Bernardo Silva could go wide. We're all thinking Bernardo's going to play in the middle.
But it might not be that.
The fluidity, I guess, is actually kind of what makes it so tough for then opponents to work out what is actually going to happen once we've got going on the pitch.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Forest would have come here anticipating. I would have said Mahrez to play, which hugs the touchline basically and brings something different. And now that obviously Alvarez is in, if he does play in that wide right position, it's a different sort of beast to deal with for the fullback, because he's not just going to stay there.
Yeah.
He's going to run in behind you, he's going to come in, run across you, he's going to come in that number 10 position where the fullback can't go. So it is going to be really hard to pin him down.
It's going to be interesting to see, because Haaland will play through as a 9, I think we all know that. But at any point in any game, they'll all interchange. It could be Ilkay, it could be out wide. Ilkay's tucking in the middle, it could be Bernardo, and they're just so good at interchanging. That's what causes teams so many problems.
Let's bring the chat then to this man on our screen now, warming up. He starts tonight, our number 9, and my love for him, I think each week can't get much more, and it seems to do. On the back of that hat-trick last week now, he's got some incredible stats. The strangest one, and we never want to compare someone to the great Sergio Aguero, but this to come back. The touch from Julian Alvarez there as well, by the way, I think is absolutely beautiful. It was a lovely one too he did with Bernardo there.
And the cutback from Bernardo is
stunning.
Fantastic.
But when we go to this third goal, which I think will pop up here any moment now, here we go. Shaun, I mean, how many times are we going to see him bully the centre-half this season?
It was weird, because I think 2 times before that there was an option to pass it, but Gundogan's perfect. But I've had to ask strikers about this, and I've spoken to Paul about it, because I wouldn't to the floor and still has the composure to not scuff it in, but place it calm, collectively, like he had all the time in the world. Now, any other player, I think, would have panicked there because he was basically in between two defenders. And that just shows how strong he is and how hungry and his desire to get to it. You see here, look, they're both going, look, he just takes his time.
Yeah.
He's under no worry, he's not panicking or anything like that. It's a fantastic finish.
Speaking of, relationships and link-ups, let's begin with the team because, it is scary, like you say. I mean, he's not even been here 2 months yet, and everyone's talking about that bedding in time. How important is that for a striker? Because I think you said, Shaun, it seems Gundogan is the first one that's starting to get the link-up with him. He's the first one that's found it. But, what is it that comes with time? Is it knowing where he's going to be? Is it knowing where he likes it? Because, it is such an important thing to have that understanding.
It's minutes on the pitch and minutes on the training ground.
Yeah.
And they would have worked at that. I think there was his first goal, the second goal against West Ham, when Kevin's played him through, he was making that run all game. I think Newcastle, it was very similar to that when he's done the goalkeeper saved it. So we're seeing it happening more and more in games. And what's happening is because centre-halves are that scared of him, they're playing so much narrower, which is leaving spaces everywhere else. I mean, that goal there, I still don't think it gets the credit it deserves. No. There's not many players, if any, in the world that could have scored that. People were talking about how strong he was getting them off. When you do that, you take your eye off the ball.
Yes.
He's beasted the defender and took 2 touches, so calm and composed technically wise, and just passed it in the side of the net.
The other relationship as well I've been loving seeing blossom is the Erling Haaland and Pep Guardiola relationship. I mean, Pep's like a kid at Christmas around him, and just how much do you think, Pep is licking his lips at, the next few seasons hopefully they will have together when he's already doing this, Shaun?
Well, we're here licking our lips. The excitement, you know what I mean, to wait. If he's on his day, he'll be the first person, I think, to hit 30+ goals in the Premier League if he stays.
Like in that City team, and when he clicks, I don't think it's like beyond our wildest dreams that, as you say, he could score a brace or a hat-trick, it feels like, every game. I mean, if he put chances away in the game so far, he actually could have had a hat-trick.
Yeah, if he plays every game, which obviously he's not. And I mean, going back to Pep celebrating like a kid, how many staff went mental when the third goal went in, which makes you think, go back to what we said before about working the training pitch.
Yeah.
I bet with the midfielders, with him making that run between the 2 centre-halves, so they've done that all week.
Yeah.
They've done that all the time in training.
Because they're the most gratifying goals, aren't they?
So when they see that happening, that they're actually doing it, that's why they were celebrating as much as they did.
And the whole of the Etihad was rocking as well. Well, fingers crossed it's going to be rocking as well with a few more Haaland goals. We're coming up to just under 15 minutes, just over 15 minutes until kick-off. Don't forget, Alistair Mann and Shaun have got your commentary over on the City app. Now, we heard from Stuart Broad, the England cricketer, a little bit earlier on in the show. We're going to hear from him again, but this time we played a little game where we asked him who said it, Pep or Clough?
I'm going to give you some quotes, and they're either Bruyne, Clough or Pep Guardiola.
Okay.
The first few are easy, but we'll see how you get on anyway. So,
don't say that. You just set me up for a fall there, aren't you?
So, here's the first one.
Okay.
We had a good team on paper. Unfortunately, the game was played on grass.
Bruyne Clough.
That's Bruyne Clough. Well done. I will forgive if the players cannot get it right, but if they do not try hard, I can't forgive.
Pep.
That's Pep. I wouldn't say I was the best manager in the business, but I'm in the top 1.
Cloughie.
If a chairman sacks the man... I ever will see.
Now, that's either Pep with Messi or Cloughie with John Robertson. I'm gonna lean on the side of Cloughie because Pep.
That's Pep with Messi, well done. Players lose you games, not tactics. There's so much crap talked about tactics by people who barely know how to win at dominoes.
It's a good game, because this could be either. I feel like I'm gonna say Pep. Just not that I ever met Brian Clough, but I just don't think he played dominoes.
That was Brian Clough. That's your first incorrect. Next one. A perfectionist. That's part of my job.
Pep.
Pep. If God had wanted us to play football in the sky, he'd have put grass up there.
Cloughy.
Yeah. Final one. Let us fight until the end. Let me try at least that, to fight.
Oh, repeat that.
Let us fight until the end.
You'll have to send me.
In 11 is Edison in goal, a back four of Walker, Stones, Diaz and Cancelo. Rodri is holding alongside Bernardo and Gundogan, and then a forward three of Julian Alvarez, Phil Foden and Erling Haaland. So let's see what today's commentators, legends Alistair Mann and Shaun made of today's team.
Well, welcome to pitchside, and it is quite blustery actually at pitchside, which I was quite surprised at, but a pretty decent day for football nonetheless. I'm delighted that alongside me today is Shaun, as he'll be as the co-commentator during the commentary during the match as well. Shaun, we're just still reflecting, I think, on Saturday. Again, City giving an opponent a 2-goal start and coming back and winning. How big a performance was that?
Well, I thought it was a huge performance, because I think if you went around this stadium at halftime and said, you know, what's the possibility of City pulling it back, I think, yes, some would have said yes, but the way we had pulled it back, you know, it just goes to show that we're a team that fights to the end. I had said also during the show, I was saying that this team, if we get it right, we're capable not only equalising but going on to score more goals, and it proved to be truth. This team is really phenomenal when we really get it going, and tonight could be another one of those occasions that if we get it going, we could see a beautiful display of football.
The momentum that they had once they made it 2-1 actually was you could see it in front of you. As an opponent, what do you think at that point Crystal Palace were thinking?
Oh my dear, I think that's what they were thinking, because again, not only could you see it, you could feel it. The fans apart, the players are feeling it, but the belief, I think the players also knew that once we got one, that we were going to score two. Did I think we were going to score four? I did.
Six goals in 4 games, just like Sergio did. He got a hat-trick in his 4th match, just like Sergio did. He couldn't be on for 260 goals with his club, could he?
Wow, you wouldn't doubt it, because I almost feel like I should stop me saying Sergio. I mean, he's had a phenomenal start, and we're seeing parts, and even in the last game, we saw parts where he was out of the game, but once he and we all know his game or his improvement or the understanding with the players is going to even get better. So there's even more opportunities and more goals to come from him.
And of course tonight he's partnered with Julian Alvarez, both of them in the same starting lineup. What do you make of that?
Really exciting, because Alvarez, he's typical Argentine. Every Argentine that we've seen come to this club has had nothing but energy. They've had quality, hunger, a desire. He shows that out of possession. He's ratting around, he's getting them amongst players, but when he's got the ball, he's got that Argentine quality. And Argentines are world class, and you see that quality with him buzzing around. So interesting. I think he'll probably play like an 8-year-old, because he has the ability to drop short and get amongst the midfield and link up play. But this is my guess and where I think he'll play as a number 8, probably alongside Gundogan, also playing that sort of role. So it is one of those things where you're trying to get to know personalities. We're just talking about Haaland trying to get to know a better understanding of players. But you've got almost a whole team coming in. They've all got a jowl, and the normal things to say to give them time. But we're in the Premier League. It's not forgiving in that way, because if you get it wrong in 2 or 3 games, you're looking over your shoulder, or you're looking in a place and you're thinking, how are we going to get out of this? So I think they've got some work to do in terms of making sure the players understand each other. It is difficult. What makes the understanding come real quick is winning games.
Yeah, okay, well, obviously myself and Shaun will be commentating throughout the game. I can't let you go without a prediction. What's your gut feeling tonight?
Well, this is really a tough one, because I do feel that I'm thinking a high score, and I'm also being respectful. I'm going to go 5-0 City.
Okay, that was respectful to Nottingham.
Believe me, I'm being respectful. Okay. I just think this team, when we get it right, we can just blow teams away.
Well, is Shaun going to be right? You'll be able to hear whether or not the goals go flying in with myself and Shaun on commentary. Let's go back to the studio.
Thank you to Alistair, Mann and Shaun. Go to a pitch side there, but now they'll have assumed their positions in the commentary box, because they're bringing you